Welcome to Wonder Paws Down Under. I'm Dan,
I'm Anita.
and we're traveling around Australia with our dog Wally, our cat Paprika, our off-road caravan, and our trusty Toyota Hilux.
It's true.
In this episode, we're going to bring you something a little bit different. Now, we're just over 1 month in, and I wanted to speak to you about some of the lessons learned because I think it's really important to reflect on the trip and what has been quite a challenging 4 to 5 weeks behind us, but
Yeah.
also a super rewarding one. So, maybe I'll begin.
Okay.
The most important, hands down, factor for me is understanding the why. Why are we doing this? Why are you doing this? Why am I doing this? Why have we blown up our life in Melbourne, rented out our house, done something really radical, quit our jobs that we've been in for, for me, 15 years in the corporate world, for you,
Yeah,
almost
pretty
something
much
similar?
It's the same, yeah.
Yeah. Why have we done this? And it's a really, really difficult question to grapple with, but it is the most important question to answer for yourself because when the going gets hard, and it will, there's going to be a lot of challenges, you can always come back to your why, and you can use that as an anchor point as to why you're going through the journey that you're going through. So as an example, my whys, I actually have 4. Adventure. So I want to adventure more and I want to get some adventure back in my life because, we've been working for quite a long time through lockdowns, especially, not much entertainment. We endured the longest lockdowns probably in the world in Melbourne. And I just felt like I had this little sense of loss of adventure in my life. And short-term travels, to Bali and to Europe for a few weeks, they just weren't cutting it anymore.
Yeah.
So adventure was one of them for me. The second one, and probably one of the most important ones, is connection. Connection to self, connection to you, because I feel like, people do drift apart from time to time, and we do change and we evolve as people. So it's important to re-establish that connection, especially if you're moving through different phases of your life.
Mm-hmm.
The third one for me is discovery. So discovery more about myself and discovery more about my beautiful country. So unfortunately, we can't travel extensively with our pets overseas, and we love overseas travel, but we can see pretty much the whole country.
Yeah,
We
that
just
was a
need the
huge
right
factor,
setup.
wasn't it?
Yeah. And the fourth one is evolution. So I mentioned before that we're moving into a different stage of our life. So we've sort of been there, done that with the party life. We've gone and done our Euro trips and got drunk everywhere you can imagine and done all that. And, we're not really at the stage of wanting kids. I'm not sure if we will have kids, but I definitely feel like we are evolving into the next phase of our life. And it's important to nurture that, tap into yourself, listen to yourself, and let that happen and create the conditions for that to happen. So very deep, big philosophical whys for me. And trust me, they have held me in good stead where there have been some pretty big challenges. Have you thought about your whys?
Well, I was going to come to town with a different angle, but now you're asking me such deep questions, so I'm going to try and think on the spot. And I guess, there's definitely some, similarities in the sense of the need for adventure. Daniel and myself, we pretty much ever since we've known each other, since before we've known each other, have been travelers. We have been people that have always, kind of needed to do something drastic or, radical. Or, yeah, exactly. And we were that, and that's what attracted us to each other. It was a huge part of our connection as a couple when we were younger. And it was ongoing throughout our relationship. Like if you speak to any of our friends, they'll all tell you about our travel stories because we have so many of them. We have so many funny things that we have done together. So it was definitely after lockdowns, we had gone on holidays, but they felt a little different from what we were really, really looking for. We were looking for that radical change. And then it did come down to the fact that we had our pets and we are responsible pet owners and we don't want to give them away. We're not like, oh, we got a COVID dog and now we want to.
They're our babies.
We don't want to move on from them. We haven't changed our desire to be with them. So we were like, well, what can we actually do? So this was a big part of our adventure. And also the why for me was to spend time with them because our pets' lives are so limited on this earth. And I am sickly in love with my pets, so disgustingly in love with my dog and my cat. I'm also sickly in love with you, but I spend time with you. But with
we understand the levels now.
Yeah, the levels. I think the dog, cat, Daniel. No, I'm really joking. But the point is that, yes, spending time with them, their lives are so limited. And I'd seen like a few reels come up on my thing about like, your dog's life in the scope of this and that. And it brought me to tears. And so that was a big part for me. I wanted to spend as much quality time with them before they pass on from our lives. And I didn't want to be disappearing from their life for a year. So being able to put those two things together is a big why for us. So sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit lost on this trip and I get frustrated with the pets or I get frustrated at the situation, I remind myself that this is about them as much as it's about me, as much as it's about Daniel, and as much as it's about our connection. It's our time with them. And that is a huge factor for me. It brings me out of my frustrations and my head really quickly.
Well said. So second lesson learned, things are going to get 5 times harder when you're traveling with a dog and 10 times harder when you're traveling with a cat on top, along with all the other challenges that you're going to get with traveling in our case, a small caravan.
Yeah, this looks like it's on the same one that's on my list.
Yeah.
It's a small space and tensions can be high. Be mindful of each other and the impact on yourselves and pets.
Yeah. And to give you an idea, like just the simple things that we take for granted when we live in a house or even in a bigger caravan are much more difficult when you're in, say, 15-footer like what we are.
Yeah.
For example, there's a cat litter tray to consider. So that cat litter tray migrates from one part of the caravan to another depending on what time of day or night it is.
Depending on how often you're going to be in the caravan and whether you're going to be stepping into it or near it.
Yeah. Dog's water bowl. That's a classic one because every single day, without fail, we have knocked it over. Because
this is one thing we haven't mastered yet, where to put the bloody dog and the cat's water bowl, because no matter what we've done, we've put it at the front, we've put it at the back, we've put it in the side, we've put it under the table, we've put it near the door, someone stands on it every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
That's inside. And then you have factors to consider, like where are you staying? Does it allow pets?
Yeah.
What do we do with if there's a national park? Blah, blah, blah. The list goes on. So things will get hard.
But even where do we stay? Like, we haven't planned anything maybe, and we're just like, oh shit, what if we can't get in somewhere or we can't find something? That's a bit of a stress.
So things will get really hard. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with your pets. Remember your why, because it's going to come down to that, and anchor yourself there. Look, I take my hat off to my babies because the adjustment for them, like we think we've had an adjustment and a wake-up call. These guys, they don't even know what's going on half the time, and they've just been such troopers, especially the cat, because like the dogs come on camping trips with us, but the cat is now roaming free range. He's bloody somewhere out there at the moment.
And having like a new environment every day, like that's hard for us. It's adventurous for the dog. I think the dog kind of enjoys that spontaneity, but the cat, obviously, it's a big factor for him, and the fact that he has been such a trooper on this trip has just been it's been lucky for us, like, to be honest. But we do have days where we look at them and feel a little bit like, oh, are we doing the right thing? Is this fair on them? So that can pay a toll on us sometimes as well.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. I guess like it's probably the same stuff on your list, but I've put down that I could probably put these two sort of together, like taking rest days or an admin day.
Oh, yes.
Like my side note was like, don't try to adventure all the time, or taking time for your self-development. So yeah, like that's a huge one. Like when we started this trip, we were like always stopping like at a spot and like booking in all of the things that we were going to see, all of the things we were going to do, all of the hikes, all of the,
multiple times a day sometimes.
Yeah, and Australia has a lot of tourist stoppy places. Like even like in the randomest towns, we're like, oh, we got to go see this heritage, we got to go see this. And like we were wondering why we started to get narky with each other, why the pets were tired all the time or stressed out, why we were stressed out. We were having arguments all the time. We were just not sleeping that well. And we realized that we aren't actually taking time for self-care. We're not actually taking time just for admin, which is like your shopping, your cleaning, your, general duties, your washing, and we were just really, really burning the candle. And we kind of had to reflect back on our day at home and go, okay, so what do we normally do in a day at home? You spent 8 hours sitting on your ass, to be honest. Like I work in a desk job, he works in a desk job. We worked in desk jobs. So we weren't really moving around all the time. And even on holidays, like we tended to do this on holidays sometimes as well. And it was like, we'd always have a bit of confrontation in the first week because we were doing that. And we had to remind ourselves, oh no, we're supposed to be regenerating. This is supposed to be time as well for us to, you know, have time for ourselves, to have some self-care. So adding to that, it's really important to have something you're doing for yourself. Like I have a book that I am reading at the moment. It's kind of a self-development book. It gives me tasks, it gives me exercises. It could be a course, it could be a book. It doesn't matter what it is. But having something to kind of do if you're not working. So for us, we're not working. We have chosen for now that we've quit our job, so we're not working. So you need to find things that are meaningful to do throughout your day and take those days to do it.
Definitely, yeah. I 100% agree with those points, and that's actually something that we've learnt to finally do literally in the past week, to just slow down, especially if you find a beautiful location. Like right now where we're staying, it's free, it's beautiful, you can swim, the dog can swim, no one's bothering us, we've got plenty of power. Fantastic.
And tuning into
it's
how
felt
you feel,
refreshing.
yeah?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
tuning into how you feel in that location. Like we just started to stay longer
Go by feels.
because we
Yep.
were both like, well, we're not arguing. We've got really good peace. We're feeling happy. The pets are really, really happy. Let's just stay.
Yep.
You know?
Definitely. There's going to be phases to your trip. There's no avoiding this. And it's going to be a roller coaster. And that's something that you've reminded me several times when I've been a little bit upset and got my knickers in a twist. Things are amplified as well. So the emotions that you feel inside a confined space, especially with another human and in our case, two other pets, they're going to be super, super amplified. Coupled with the fact that we're doing a lot of spiritual development work and we're trying to really get to the next stage of our life, that's a lot to process, along with like long-term fatigue, overwork, burnout, all the other stuff that, you know, came before this trip, even just the prep for this trip.
Yeah.
So there's going to be phases, and you need to, like with the roller coaster, you just need to strap yourself in, let the ride happen. Some days are going to be crap, some days are going to be amazing, some days are going to be epic, some days are going to be not so epic. So just give yourself that time and space to ride the roller coaster, because otherwise you will literally go insane on the road.
And you'll argue and things like that will happen. But like what we did the other day, it was just getting to a point of being quite pathetic and petty. So we actually just looked at each other and said, let's just make a truce right now to do a reset. And we won't bring up things of the past week, because we knew that we were stressed out. We knew that things were getting heightened, and we were just in a bit of a little bit of a, you know, loop. So we were like, all right, we're both tired. Let's just take some days to rest. This goes back on the point from before, because if we keep doing all these things all the time, like you're not really picking up on, like, you know, when a toddler like does so many things. We see it in the dog actually. Like when the dog is out stimulated and he gets really, really tired, like, but he doesn't know he's tired, so he gets cranky or he gets like worked up and then he's agitated. It's the same for us. It's the same for anything. Like it's like you have to acknowledge the fact that you have been doing a lot of stuff, and so you're a little bit on edge, and maybe, you know, you're not actually yourself. I think I also had something along those lines in here as well. Like, yeah, like your sleeplessness, your driving days, the lack of space, all of these things are out of the norm. These are things that you don't do in your normal day-to-day life previously.
And it's hard.
Yeah,
It's actually
it's hard.
like, this is not, you know, a nice trip to Bali. We're sitting by the pool all day drinking bloody bintangs.
Yeah.
It's hard work. Even every time you move, you've got to set up, you've got to pack up, pack down. Like that in itself, hitching up, unhitching, it takes a toll.
Yeah.
So
with all of its beauty and all of its amazing moments, yeah, you just have to acknowledge that we're both sometimes, not all the time, we have times where we're completely at bliss, like the last 4 days, just blissful. No arguments, no frustrations, beautiful interactions with the babies, beautiful walks, beautiful sunsets, and everything makes sense, but it's not going to be all the time.
It's the human experience in all its glory.
Exactly.
Yeah. So moving on to, I guess, more practical elements. In our case, we have vastly different strengths and different things that we're good at. So we've actually, you know, being together for 11 years at this stage, we're very acutely aware of what each other is good at. As such, we've assigned each other tasks that get us through each day and play to our individual strengths. So for example, I'm responsible when we arrive at a destination to unhitch and do all of the things outside of the caravan, like unclip the roof clips because I'm taller than Anita, you know, turn the gas on because I know which way the knob goes, you know, just set up the shower tank because it's easier to reach, just things like that.
Yeah.
Whereas Anita's responsible for more of the internal items.
Like most of the time I'll, you know, maybe just check that everything, you know, whatever's moved on the journey, maybe start helping out with putting up the roof, putting all of our little bits and pieces up that make the place feel like home, sweeping it out, all of those little things, getting us ready for actually settling into the space.
Like in the morning when Anita's doing her morning pages and her exercise, her mental exercise routine, I get up a little bit early. I'm a bit more keen to get practical in the day. So I'll feed the dog and the cat first up, clean out the cat's litter tray, and Anita will take the afternoon shift. So it's a clear delineation of responsibilities, and that way you don't come into conflict with each other. Everyone knows where they stand, what they need to do and when, and it just works a lot smoother that way. So that took a few weeks to iron out as well.
Yeah, like, all right, because I'm the last out of bed, I make up the bed and I sweep out the caravan and that kind of thing. So, or I'll take over the breakfast.
You're good at booking stuff as well, whereas I can't stand that.
Yeah, I think you've been doing more of that recently too, to be honest. But that's okay. It's it is finding like your strengths and your weaknesses and just being okay with those and working together. And it's also about what you actually enjoy somewhat as well. So even when we set up our extra spaces, like I really enjoy like the making it feel like home, making the vibes and doing those kind of things.
The vibes.
But just little things like to put the sparkle touch on things. So, but I am, definitely growing to learn some of those other outdoor things as well to take a help of the load. So
yeah, it's also about risk management. So, Anita's learned how to pump up the tires and let the pressure out and hitch and unhitch. Because if something happens to me, say I get a snake bite or something happens to the pets and things need to move quickly, then it's important that both of you need to know what to do if you're traveling together.
You do need to know.
I don't know how we'll train the dog and the cat to do any of these things, but anyway,
I guess kind of on that same point, I had written down declutter and keep tidy. That is a huge impact on our mental health. We've noticed, like, if we stay somewhere for a bit too long and we get a little bit comfortable in the space and we start putting things wherever we want, tensions start to rise, moods start to change. So there is a huge component of keeping your space clean, keeping it tidy, keeping things in order that helps you make it through the day, knowing where things are, that they haven't changed positions. Like, this is something Dan had to learn as well on his side, and I had to learn, to be able to work together, is that we put things back in the same spot. Otherwise, there becomes frustrations that we can't find things. There becomes, a loss of things sometimes too. And but we do our best.
People get forgetful of where they put certain things, and then other people get upset at those said people, and it can cause conflict.
But it's a matter of like realizing the reasons why you're doing it, because it does help to keep us, in check, and also that we don't forget things. Like we don't lose anything because we always put it back in the same spot. But the tidying of the caravan is a huge impact on your mental health. Tidy that place, keep it clean, keep it in order, because the minute that you let that go, you're going to find that there's going to be some sort of issue that happens somewhere along the lines.
Also, if there's a cat involved, and as most cats do, they like to knock things over. So if you've got something precious up there and you don't want it to be knocked over and glass to smash, keep it tidy.
The cat's definitely getting more adventurous and jumping up on things a lot more now and looking at the windows and being a little bit of a catty cat. So you definitely have to be careful. You don't want anything precious to be laying around.
Yeah. So you mentioned check before. That's prompted me. Have a checklist.
Oh, you're so good at that.
For the things that you need to do and repeat each time, for example, hitching, unhitching, getting the caravan ready to go on the road, guaranteed the human memory is a fickle thing. You will forget things.
Think you know, but...
And it becomes a safety issue. For example, if you forget to put your breakaway chains on and something happens to your hitch, good luck recovering your caravan. So have a checklist. So we just use Google Notes. It has a really good checklist function. So we've got one section for the external checklist when we're packing up and setting down, and we've got one for internal. And each person is accountable for ticking off the other person's list of items. So that way, you're not ticking your own items off. It's the other person doing that check, and that's like an extra QA step. So I come from a tech background, so QA is really, really important, and that's how you avoid big incidences. So I've sort of applied that here as one of my strengths, and something that's worked really well for us pretty much flawlessly since we implemented it.
Yeah,
Sounds
definitely.
like a software project.
Yeah, definitely. But it also gives you peace of mind. Like, end of story. Like, you just don't have to worry that you've forgotten something. I am a bit of I have ADHD, so sometimes I try to rely on my memory, and that's just not reliable at all. So I need my other side of the brain to sort of like pull me into action, because I have an excellent memory, but there are times when these things go astray. So it is nice to have that extra peace of mind to go, okay, I know I've done what I needed to do to get out the door. And for the safety of our pets, the safety of ourselves.
Definitely. And other people around us as well.
Of course, yeah. Another fun, this is a funny one. It's funny, but it's not funny at all. Look at my face. Not funny.
I know what you're going to say.
Don't bring too much. Don't bring too much. Don't bring clothes that you don't need. Don't bring shoes that you don't need. Don't bring appliances that you don't need. Do not bring a utensil. Do not bring one little darn thing that you haven't used in the last 2 weeks. That is my rule now.
Don't bring two of the same things that perform the same function, like a soft bread knife and a hard bread knife, right?
Don't
because
bring a
one
long
bread
tong
knife
and a short tong. Like, it's just...
Bring less in other words.
There's reasons for this, because we keep going back to like keeping tidy and mental health. Like, but it is a huge factor on your mental health when you cannot reach things, you cannot easily access things. With clothes, there is a reason why when you see me in these videos, up until today's outfit, you've practically seen me in the same couple of outfits the whole time. And it's not because I don't have other clothes, and it's not because I don't want to do washing. We've been doing washing all the time. It's because I can't access those clothes. There is too many bloody clothes to access the other clothes.
Why don't you explain to everyone what sort of cupboard space? We'll throw a picture and a video up in a second of our cupboard space. But why don't you explain to people what you have to deal with in order to just get some clothes out? From both vehicles.
To be honest, we thought that we had it nailed by getting like the little organizers from Kmart and like having it sort of structured so that we can pull in and out of our clothes.
Seems logical, right? I mean, take a look at it.
It seems logical if you don't have too many of them. And then you can't, if you pull one out, then the rest of them fall out. And it seems logical if you live in a caravan that's probably a little bit bigger than ours, where you can actually open up the doors without lifting up the bed, because that becomes irritating at times as well. So frustration becomes like the next step, anger, and then blowing up. Volcanoes. Like, it's a disaster, honestly. And that's just clothes, right? And to be fair, like, we did a pretty good cull of our clothes, so we thought we were being responsible. We thought we were being good with our choices with clothes. I didn't bring like things that are like so elaborate, but you just don't need that much, because the reality is you are living outside. You don't see people very often. Before these videos, I would wear makeup every freaking day, right? I haven't even worn makeup once pretty much on this video.
Same,
because
actually.
I can't be bothered, right?
Yeah, I haven't worn makeup either.
Because I can't be bothered, because there's no one here. There's no one around me. There's no fashion parade. I'm in rural outback Australia. Keep it real.
Yeah, but also, just because you have cupboard space does not mean you need to fill it with crap.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't need to bring our electric toaster because we found a different way of toasting our bread in the grill. We didn't need to bring our air fryer because we've found ways of cooking that are just as awesome without having
it
to...
uses so much energy. It just doesn't make sense.
And we are actually, in the back of our Hilux, we have this giant tub, and it weighs a good probably like 40 kilos, and it's just full of clothes. To be fair, it's for different seasons, but there is still current season clothes in there. And we thought, if we need to, we'll just pop in there and grab whatever we need. Try pulling out a whole tray full of crap out of a Hilux just to get to that thing. That thing weighs 35 kilos. Try getting it out, sorting through it, putting it back in. Just save yourselves the trouble.
And I guess that's another thing. Like, we could have put so much of the stuff that's currently in the car into the caravan if we didn't bring extra things that we brought purely for comfort that we now cannot be bothered even trying to use. And I know even something so simple as we have 2 sets of towels, we have 2 sets of bedding, we just haven't used it. What we've been doing is washing things and using the same things again. Like, I know it seems like not a lot, like 2 sets of linen and 2 sets of this, but we literally just wash our sheets, our quilt cover, and put it back on.
Wash it in the morning, dry it in the afternoon. By evening, it's done.
How much space that's taking up in one of our tiny little cupboards. A set of sheets, quilt cover, pillows, and extra towels, extra face flannels and stuff. Like, it takes up a heap of space that we could have literally put something that's sitting in the back of the car into there, or we could have just had a little bit more room to access the things that we are using all the time.
It's also weight, and weight's a really big one, particularly if you've got a rig that, already weighs a lot and your towing car, can't handle it. weight makes a big difference to fuel consumption as well. So, it's as much about the weight as the volume, and also your mental health as well.
Oh, it's just, look, it's silly. It is silly. And like I said, we didn't really go crazy on the stuff we brought. But like, I mean, maybe we'll feel a little bit different when we're in a different environment because we are going towards the tropical parts of Australia. But I mean, you can always send things home. That is an option. But I think anybody I've ever spoken to about this has said the same thing. A
Yeah.
couple of weeks in, they realized, yeah, we brought too much stuff.
I don't need 6 clubbing shirts and party shirts on top. No.
And women, like ladies, you're just not going to look good. Like, I'm sorry, unless you have like the $1 million rig, like, and you're, if you're camping and you're off grid the way that we are, look, I'm only comparing to our own situation. You're not going to be doing your hair every day. You're not going to be having time to do. I brought like 4 or 5 different makeup bags just in case. Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
And always remember, the beauty's actually on the inside, right?
Of course.
It's all about the inside. Couple more from me. So, slow down. Like,
That's the next one on mine.
just slow it down. I know that we live busy lives. Things happen at 1,000,000 miles an hour, especially in the cities and even in
Yeah.
towns. And you're not even conscious of it. You're so wound up. You're used to doing 1,000,000 things before you even get your bum to work.
Yeah.
And when you take a step back from that and you live in the bush for long enough, you really start to get that perspective. And if you can be conscious of that and realize that you're actually not doing yourself any service by being frantic and rushing around and stressing yourself out here, like, that's a really big realization that we came to. And it's only recently come. Slow down, be patient. Things are actually even more enjoyable. Simple things like cooking, cleaning, I don't know, even setting up, much more enjoyable when you don't feel like you've got a bug,
Yeah, like you've got a time limit. That's literally the exact same thing I wrote down, is like slow down and enjoy it. And
Enjoy the journey.
Yeah, and I also put a little side note of like, have some ritual. Like, we have tea time, literally, right now. We have a cup of tea. I have a tea time. So at 3 p.m.-ish or whatever, we have tea. And it's just something so small, but it gives you just like a little bit of a homey vibe. It helps you just to sit and enjoy the scenery. Because I think sometimes we forget that we're here in this, oh my gosh, I wish you could see where we are right now, but we'll be able to show you a video. But it's just worth expressing enjoying. It's worth enjoying that space, and our tea time kind of like slows us down and says, all right, no matter what we've been doing up until this moment, we're just going to sit and we're just going to like live it.
And it's funny, like, literally just the act of just sitting and doing nothing. We don't do it enough in the cities.
Yeah.
And doing that is actually really special, because when you start tapping in and listening to yourself and the world around you, it's amazing what starts to come to you. And that comes back to one of my biggest whys, which is, well, it's actually a few of them, but discovery and evolution. If you're constantly talking and moving, you don't have the opportunity to evolve or discover anything about yourself.
Oh yeah, that's one of my biggest like whole points of this trip, was like to learn and know myself. And I couldn't hear myself at home. I couldn't hear myself in the city. I didn't know who I was. Like, I was so distracted. So to be in a moment where you're actually able to feel what you want, okay, I'm hungry. Okay, like, it's simple, like little things like, okay, I need, to go for a walk now because I feel like I'd really enjoy like some fresh air. Like, it's just small little moments where you just see and feel and experience life. And you can tap into your intuition and actually ask yourself the big questions of what you want in your life. And that is what I'm doing here on my trip. I'm trying to discover what's next in my life. And I couldn't hear myself. I couldn't hear what I needed. I didn't know what I needed. So
It's not just a holiday. This is much, much deeper than that.
It's and that's why it's hard sometimes. That's why sometimes we do have, these conflicts, because we are going through a whole entire journey, a bit of an evolution, and we don't know who's going to come out of it and what's going to come out of it. So,
last one from me. Prevention is better than cure. We had a really close call, a safety-related close call on the Udna data track, and it's a bit of a, I don't know. I think someone must be looking after us, because the way that this happened is a bit trippy. So we were traveling along the Unadata track between where was it, Mari and Kubapedi, and the Unadata track is quite corrugated and quite rough in sections, and as such, it takes a toll on your vehicle. And every day, especially before big trips, I'll do a check of the engine oil, the coolant level, quick check of the suspension, make sure that the radiator hoses are still connected, just some basic stuff. What I don't check every day is the hitch, the towing hitch. So that's the bit that the caravan attaches onto. And we were staying at a place called Coward Springs, and I had a dream really early on in the morning. And in that dream, like an entity, we can call it God, spoke to me and said, "This is one part that the hitch that you should check. Check it in the morning." And I got up and checked it. It was loose as I could unscrew it, the bolt, with my fingers, and that is so bloody dangerous. And before we came on this trip, I checked that thing, made it super super tight. It had obviously come loose throughout all the corrugations.
Yeah, like things move all the time when you're on corrugation. Yep. So sometimes even if it doesn't feel like it's that rough, the caravan and the car are getting beaten.
Yeah.
Like
so I checked this thing based on a bloody entity that spoke to me in a dream, and it was loose as. And I'm like, oh my God, like this would have been a freaking disaster, especially traveling like 80 k's an hour, having a caravan detached from you, like bad news, even if you have breakaway chains.
Yeah, it's scary.
So, you know, I have a 300 mil wrench in my toolbox for this purpose. And so I got the wrench out, I was tightening the bolt, and the wrench broke. Like, what are the chances?
Happen, but...
Thankfully, there was a really nice truckie that was staying nearby.
And we made friends with him.
Yeah. And he had a really, really awesome pipe wrench that I was able to borrow, tightened it up, was on our way. And it just goes to show, like, especially with safety, do your checks, don't be lazy. In my case, listen to your dreams and the entities, and whatever the universe is trying to tell you, tap into it, listen to it. But most importantly, try and prevent issues before they become worse, because there is nothing worse than trying to deal with something in the middle of the outback on a desert road, especially if it's a safety related matter. And actually, our water tank, day 0, our water tank was leaking on the caravan. So that was another check that I did. Found a leak, went straight to the place that installed it. They fixed it up under warranty, no issues. But yeah, prevention is better than cure.
Yeah, Daniel's kind of the guardian angel on this trip, actually, if you think about it, because he is doing all these things.
Well, I would have got blamed if something went wrong, but in this case, I've got the praise, right?
I would have been terrified if something went wrong, but you've definitely done the right things and done all the checks, so yeah, that's awesome. I guess my final point really is just to enjoy it, because you don't know how long it lasts. You don't know how long you're going to have the opportunity to do this experience. And like I mentioned at the start of our trip, it's about the shortness of our pets' lives included in that story, in that journey, the fragility of life in general. We have recently heard news of one of our friends passing away from cancer, you know, so it's just, this is your one life. Like, don't get hung up on all of the shitty parts. We have had moments on this trip where we've looked back and noticed all of the crappy things, and we've really homed in on that. And then we were like, why are we putting everything in a blanket of the crappy moments and not really nurturing and being grateful for the amazing time that we're having, the amazing opportunities that have come from this, the amazing experiences. So sometimes you can get caught up in the, you know, little things, the things that actually aren't even that big of a deal. And you can hang on to that more than it's really worth. So expressing gratitude, looking out at the sun and just being grateful to feel the warmth from the sun, being able to look at the beautiful moon at night and the stars, and
who we're sharing this journey with, our pets and each other, and just the fact that it is such a great privilege to be able to do this. You know, no matter what your budget is, no matter what your setup is, if you can get out there on the road, and there's a reason why you're watching this, because you are obviously interested or are doing it, you know, it's just such a privilege. And I'm so glad that you said that as the final thing, because 200% agree.
Yeah. Like every morning when Wally puts his little head up and wants to jump onto the bed, and I just give him the nod, and he jumps onto the bed, and Paprika hops onto the bed, and I just look at I know back at home, they would never be allowed on my bed. Like, we had so many rules and restrictions. But then every single morning when that happens, my heart is just so full, and I'm just like, okay, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this moment with them. I'm grateful for this moment with my husband. And you just have to really, really enjoy it.
It's good to be alive.
It is. It's really good to be alive.
So, thanks for watching another episode. We'd love to hear your comments. Let us know what you think, if this has been of value, and also what else you'd like to hear. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of our mugs.
And also, if any comments of anything you would like to see from us, or anything that we can answer any of your questions, maybe.
Till next time, take care.
Bye.
Have a good one.